first thing I want to talk about today is the paper. So I have graded all of the lesson 3s and the lesson 4s that I have. So the first thing you really need to do is go into your grade book and check what you have and make sure that you have passed and done, honestly, both of those, because I'm about 10 short in both of them. You need to do these, remember that your lesson 3 is your topic and your first resource, and your lesson 4 is your second resource. So we want to make sure you have both those done because they're really going to serve as the core of your paper. So check that first, and if you don't have one or both of them, we really need to make sure that we get you back on schedule ASAP. Moving forward then, if we look along the left-hand side, we see that I'm on our lecture page now. Below all of our week tabs, at the bottom you see there's some additional stuff. Hopefully you've been down here before, right? You've turned in some in-class activities. You also see that we have some TA material. And so hopefully you've been in here. You see there's some additional videos and Quizlets for the stuff that we've been in. But the tab I want to be in is the Making Connections essay information tab, right? So this is all of the stuff that you need in one convenient location to write your paper. So you see at the top is the PDF way back that we used to build our topics for lesson 3. So that's still there if you want it. But then below that is some other important information. So we see that we have some important deadlines for paper writing. So we see we're still a month out for our paper. So I'm just giving you this talk now so we can start working on it in small, luxurious chunks instead of terrifying, manic chunks like 2 days before it's due. I don't have anything due the week before Thanksgiving. I'm under the assumption that like a ton of instructors are going to leave everything due that week. So I have tried actively not to put anything due for us that week. So everything for us is due the week before that. We have a paper and an exam due the week before that. Hopefully, in my bright thought, that works out for everybody. So I have big dreams that helps everybody. Okay, so beyond these dates, which you can also find, of course, in our syllabus, but they're here for quick access. If we scroll a little lower, we see several really helpful resources. I'm going to go through the first one with you, but these other 3 are really valuable. In particular, of course, I always recommend taking a look at the last 2. Since they're going to give you a good example of what a paper looks like, so you can see formatting, you can see what citations look like, and all of that business. And I think it's always really helpful when I'm writing a paper to have some kind of example. I still use that when I write. So really take a look at these things. I'm going to open up the instruction sheet, though, because it's a really good place to start. All right. So remember, when we go through this, that we are writing a 2-page paper. And I want you to really keep that in your head because it's really easy to turn this into something much bigger than what it is and overwhelm yourself. Okay, we really want to keep this at 2 pages so you don't end up with something massive and terrifying. Of those 2 pages then, oh, Ratifaz, I forgot about that. Okay, before I get too far ahead, I want to erase this. So, slight sidebar. Jasmine has her review session on Monday. Please don't forget we do have a test coming up at the end of next week. Both the TAs will have test review sessions next week. Jasmine has hers first, as always, but she always has review sessions on Monday. And so her test review session is at 7 p.m. on Monday. I'm going to start the day, class with this because I almost forgot on 9 a.m.'s class. And I just have lost my head today, guys. I'm very sorry. Okay, so please keep this in mind. Remember, Jasmine is the 9 a.m. TA. Okay. As we look at this paper, we see that the whole 2 pages is broken down into 4 paragraphs. So let's take a look at the first paragraph. The first paragraph is my introduction. Okay. So this is going to be general background information. Okay. And I like to think of this as creating a funnel. Okay, so I'm going to start with my big information and end at my very specific or my you information. And we see that as my first bullet point here, right? So if my topic is climate change effects on reindeer, okay, then I might start by doing things like defining climate change. Okay, why does climate change very generally matter? Okay, these are very big, broad topics, right? By the time I get to the end of my introduction, okay, I want to be talking about very specifically the effects of climate change on reindeer. So I've gotten to a very specific, pointed topic. Okay, we note here that the thesis statement should be the last sentence of my introduction. This is really important, and for some of you, you haven't gotten a lot of practice for writing a thesis statement before. This may take a couple of tries. This is going to be key for setting up paragraph 2. Let's talk about paragraph 2 a little bit first before we dive into the thesis statement. Okay. The concept of the introduction makes sense, though, before I move on? Okay, your paragraph 2 is your issue or your topic paragraph, right? And this is 2 paragraphs. This is going to be the bulk of your paper. Okay, so this is going to be your main issues that are associated with whatever it is you've done. Okay, so I want to think about what are the 2-ish big things that I want to talk about. And this might be what I have the most information on, might be what I'm the most interested in, whatever. Okay. And I need to be very organized in how I talk about this. So if I'm talking about climate change on reindeer, okay, climate change is a big topic, right? So I can't talk about all of climate change on all of reindeer. So I might specifically tackle temperature and habitat change, how those affect reindeer. Okay, so those are my 2 paragraphs. This is going to then help me write my thesis statement. Okay. My thesis statement should act like a teaser trailer for the rest of my paper. I need some space here. Sure, I got some space. There's some space. Okay. Topic 1 was temp. Topic 2 was habitat, right? Okay, so your thesis statement should summarize what your topic in your introduction was first. Okay, so climate change, blah, 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 affects reindeer. Okay. And then I have my teaser trailer. What I'm going to talk about in the order I'm going to talk about it. Okay? Assume that your audience is stupid. Yes, I understand I'm your audience, but that's fine. Okay, we're practicing. Okay? Okay? Climate change is affecting reindeer, blah, 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 blah. Okay? By increased temperatures. There's my topic 1. Temperatures. And okay, habitat fragmentation. I'm going to run out of room, so we're going to shorten that. Okay, so when I read your thesis statement, I could skip your entire introduction. And I know, here's your topic. Okay, here's your next paragraph. Here's the paragraph after that. Okay, your thesis statement should tell me that. Okay. This will also help you stay organized. Because now you know that everything in your next paragraph needs to be about increased temperatures on reindeer. Okay. Keep that paragraph focused and organized on that topic. The paragraph after that wants to be on habitat on reindeer. If it's not on those two things, it doesn't belong. Okay. This will help you keep your paper organized and keep it from getting too big. Okay. Make sense? Thesis statements can be kind of difficult the first couple times you do it. Okay, so they take practice. Any questions so far? Okay, so that leads us to talking about the actual topic paragraphs. Okay, like I said, these are going to be the bulk of your paper. And the key then is to be outlining what have you learned as you found and read through all of these sources that you worked so hard to acquire. Okay. This is also some tricky business. Okay. So if I think about all of the information that I learned, I want to be really careful that I'm not just regurgitating the information that I learned. Right? I need to make sure that I'm talking from myself. Everything needs to be in my own words. So I need to be very careful that I don't write a paragraph on how temperature affects reindeer that goes thusly. Oops. Okay. Watson et al., the peer-reviewed paper that you found, says this. Here is their methods. Here are their results. Okay. This is not, okay, any of you, right? This is what Watson et al. Already said. Okay, so this is already problematic because you're not telling me what you learned or what you know. Okay? Also, Watson already got their work published. They don't need you to republish it for them. It already exists. So, instead, what you need to do is tell me what you know and what's interesting about reindeer and climate. So I might write a sentence, for example, that says, I don't know, reduces reindeer food. I'm making this up. I don't know anything about temperature in reindeer. So I should say something like temperature increases, reduce reindeer food, but whatever, you get the idea, right? So something that you've learned, okay, but tell me from your point of view, the way you would say it. Now, did I know this before I read all of these papers? No, right? Did I do research myself on reindeer? No, although that would be super cool. Okay, so I do need to provide the source where I got that information from. Okay, so here is where I say, I learned this from wherever. Okay, it's still my thought, this is what I learned, okay, but I learned this from whatever source I learned it from. Does that make sense? Okay. So I don't want to quote anything. I don't want to regurgitate anything. Okay, my advisor always said, unless it's Shakespeare, nothing is written so well that it can't be said better. Are you with me so far on this? Any questions about the writing portion? You're talking about the bibliography? Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Good question. Okay, let's talk about your figure then. You also had to pull a figure or a table for me, right? That was also hard won work. We want to make sure we include that. Okay? So first you need to talk about the figure table. Okay, so if I had a figure table that talked about bebe reindeer, the first thing I want to do is at least say one sentence about my bebe reindeer, right? So increased temps reduce survival of baby reindeer. Again, I have no idea. I'm making it up. Okay. Let's say that's what my figure said. Okay. And my x-axis was temperature. Okay. My y-axis was number of baby reindeer that survived. No idea. Feeling morbid today, I guess. Okay. And you're just going to tell me, oh, look at my figure. Okay. And then paste your figure below the sentence or the paragraph that you're writing. Okay. This is really important, and this is something I still have to tell my seniors. If you don't write about your figure and reference it, there's no reason for your reader to ever go look at it. Okay? It ultimately doesn't exist. Okay, so if you put in all that hard work to pick a figure, write about a figure. At least one sentence. And then say, go look at my hard work. Good figure. Very pretty. Okay. Make sure again here, right, that we're not just copying and pasting your figure legend. It still should be your point of view. Whatever that is. Right? Your interpretation of what that figure says. I want to hear what you have to say. I almost guarantee it's more interesting than however the slightly pretentious language in your paper is. Okay, does this make sense? Any questions about this? All right, let's talk about the conclusions then. So the conclusions here are going to feel different than any English paper that you've written in the past. Okay? So in science, Okay? We do not use the conclusion section to re-summarize what we've already written. This is really key. And we use this as an opportunity or a sounding board to think forward. Okay? So we really want to think, what was the point of all of this? Why did I tell you any of this? Okay, so this is more than just informative. I want to think, where do we go from here? So this will probably be your shortest section, but do not make it just a sentence or two, right? Okay, so spend a couple of sentences thinking about what is the next step from whatever you've told me. What does the outlook look like for your mutualism? Okay? What does the conservation look like for your reindeer? Does that make sense? Okay. You have the opportunity here to put a little of your own opinion in, but make sure that you still have some support from the sources that you've used. We don't want to go too sci-fi here. Okay, lastly, which was the question in the classroom, is we do want on a separate page our references. Your references should be done already, right? You had to submit a citation for each of the references that you submitted to me in Research Lesson 3 and Research Lesson 4. Okay? So make sure you go back and check. If there were problems with it, I told you and commented on it. Either fixed it or told you where to go to get help. Okay? So ideally, either you can copy and paste out of there or you can get it fixed fairly easily. And that's all that needs to be on that page. Okay. Any questions about that? The last thing I want to point out then is on the next page here, you see that I have a grading checklist. This is the exact same checklist that I will use to grade you. So it is very helpful as you are writing your paper and then as you complete your drafts to use this to check yourself. I highly recommend it. You also likely noted that you need to go to a writing tutor with this. Okay. I recommend or have a deadline of the end of the month. And it's halfway between now and when the actual paper is due. Okay. One of the checkpoints is that you have to integrate writing tutor feedback. And there's actually a Dropbox that you submit the feedback that your writing tutor has given you, so I can see that you did the thing. This is really valuable. The writing tutors here can help you through your thesis statements, be able to help you work in citations, a lot of stuff that you guys have not had the opportunity to do before. Okay? So when you go to that, you need to have a full draft, all 4 paragraphs. Okay? And you're also, there'll be a place to submit multiple files. You also need to submit this. Okay? So the writing tutor can see what the expectations for the paper are. That'll be really helpful for that tutor. Okay. When you go into tutors, and the tutor thing's acting a little funky today, but there's a separate tutoring section, so instead of biology, you'll choose writing. And it'll be a longer appointment, so you'll have time to go through all this stuff. Okay. In addition to that, the TAs are also going to run a writing review session that will help in dealing with a lot of these things as well. So you guys will have lots of resources and opportunities to go through these things, since for many of you, this is brand new. Okay? And so this is, again, why I really recommend that you start now. So when you go to, for example, a writing session, you've tried some of these things, so you can get active feedback at that time. Okay, any questions about the writing stuff? or the paper or any of that business. The best, my voice hit like right when that went, it sounded really surreal. But I love to hear that. The best advice I can give is start early and do it in baby bits. Okay? This stuff can feel really overwhelming if you try to do it like 4 hours at a time. It's a lot, right? Particularly if you've not written a paper before. So just do it in little bits at a time, and then it's not anything at all. Okay? We've been working at it little bits at a time, so let's continue to work at it in little bits at a time. Okay. Will you stop and start the recording for me again?